Leave it to Norton to test the limits of this room. Because there's a plaque on the wall back there that says the maximum capacity is 200 people. But it is behind a cabinet. You wouldn't see it, so we'll just, I think we might have 200 people here today. So this is in getting ready for this event, I was so excited, it felt like my birthday. Like I think it's so personal or something. But there are so many people who love Norton and have some words to say to him. But as I've said in my emails to everybody who's going to read tonight, you get like 2 seconds. Each. We each get 2 seconds. So because we want to finish in about 45 minutes, and we want time for Norton to say a few words. And then we've got a cake over here. And so all that is going to take time. And so, really, who cares about poems? I mean, just read the title, maybe. Well, I'm going to start it out with, I got an email from Trish Hampel this morning, and she attached a note from Marley Rusoff, who many of you know, owned a bookstore in Dinkytown, was a founder of the Loft Literary Center. And Marley couldn't be here tonight, but she wanted this read. So this is from Marley Rusoff. Dear Norton, how I wish I were there with all your fans and admirers to celebrate you. Except for my parents who were readers and bookbinders, you are my first and most enduring bookish friend. A shining northern star and mentor in this business we both so love. You were there for me when in my impoverished 20s, far beyond reason, I decided I needed to own my own bookshop in Dinkytown, a place for my poet friends to gather. No one in their right mind would have given me, a student with nothing but a dream, the financial credit I needed to open my door. But Bookman did. Why? Because you believed in me, as you have believed in so many standing beside you tonight. I have no words that seem adequate to thank you. I only hope that on this 90th birthday, let's pause and think about that. We don't have to pause for 90 years, but let's, 90th birthday. I only hope that on this 90th birthday you know how much you are loved and that you are surrounded by poets and writers, family and friends, and that someone is making you wear a t-shirt reading Hero. That's exactly who you are, my dear friend. Happy birthday. Love, Marley. Okay, so we're gonna, so I've been taking time of how we're going to get 20 people to say things and not be here all night. So I was telling my wife about this to Kate, and she said, have 2 microphones. So I do. So I'm going to see if this works. It does, doesn't it? Wow. Okay, so, and we're going alphabetically here. I think everybody's reading has a list of the names. So we're going to start out with LAURIE. I'm not introducing anybody, just their names. LAURIE ALLMAN.
Or a meadowlark, because it seemed appropriate for the season and for the person we're here to honor. Like watching for a star to fall, we eye the wires, the fence posts, the heights of solitary trees in April fields for meadowlarks. The name alone, the yellow breast, the song, distinctive string of clear, healing notes pouring from an open throat into blue sky, as if designed to pierce a winter-weary soul. A breath, a sigh. To think that on this morning I could be so brazen as to look for you, to hope for you, and still to find you here, your tilted teardrop silhouette, leaning into the answer from the far side of the field, leaning into spring itself.
Is Michael Dennis Brown here? He may not have been able to make it. So now it's A, B, C. Phil Bryant.
Phil Bryant. Thank you, Norton. This is my 25 Minnesota Poets that is over 50 years old. Well, it'll be 50 years. Yeah. And Raz sent me this. I was in New York at Columbia suffering, and this got me through my suffering. And I'll read just a little short poem called First Flower of Spring. Sugar, snow, brushes, and dust, a cold, dark bark of the tree. And there rose the first confectionery flower of spring. It flecks and frosts its white, sweet coating for those all-knowing what thick, warm sap lies just underneath, silently flowing.
We're going pretty fast here now. You can stretch it out a little bit. Sharon CHMIELARZ is right here.
Robbins, and he said to me, "It is a blessing to have publishers that believe enough in our work to publish it." And I am blessed, and many of these people here are blessed, and all readers are blessed. Thank you, Norton.
Louder, please.
Louder, Sharon. I'm going to read a poem that Norton told me that he liked, and I thought it was kind of a strange poem for him to like. I'll read it anyway. And all you Bible thumpers out there might recognize the form from Matthew 7:9 through 11. In a Russian garden. This evening I saw my father on a bench in the garden's shade. I saw him easily from the gate. I said to myself, I'll draw him out. I said to myself, Father, I called from the gate, give me a fish, I'm hungry. And I held out my bag for a scorpion. Father, I called again from the gate, give me bread for my journey. And I held out my bag for a stone. I called, Father, kiss me. And I held my hanky ready to wipe the spittle off my cheek. Slowly he rose from the bench. He took my bag and filled it from the evening's dark rose. He hugged me once over the gate between us and gave back the sack. It bulged with proof. I hurried to my friend's house, dumped the bag on her table. Out rolled a cabbages, cucumbers, tomatoes. My friend's eyes rolled up to heaven. She didn't believe. Lies, lies, I cried. Again, he hasn't given me what I need. No stones, no scorpions.
You have done so many things that quietly have influenced the whole scene in the state of Minnesota and elsewhere. This poem is on behalf as well of my wife Monica, who's been my writing companion. What leaves know. They know the power of place, their role in the dazzling outcome of roots. They know the art of living within view of the two fragrances of life, sun and shade. They know the politics of free passage for air allied to no state. They know to turn the other cheek tactic for storms gone wild. They know how to brew the air we crave. How to orchestrate the incomparable music composed by anonymous wind. Leaves know how to sway and dance, how to put their colors on, how to blaze away and be outward and visible signs of a big, beautiful thing, wonderfully in the way. On foggy, still nights, they know the atonement of sleep, the moment to let go.
You have been such a dear friend to me and to my husband Gene, and no one has been a better friend to my poetry. You are, I was thinking on the way over, you are a man of letters. You spent your whole life among books. You are a literary man. Thank you. I was going to give you this, but I'm not. This is City Trees, Coffee Shop, Spring. Some days trees are all I see. Today they're getting fringed in leaves at the crown. Underneath there's a huge ball of root that nobody sees except my son as a 5-year-old who drew one exactly as a botanist might. Side view, X-ray vision. Nobody talks about trees over cappuccino. Outside the coffee shop, friends laugh about Friday night's game. A jogger passes me, a car horn shrieks. Let this day be perfect. Let nothing terrible happen. No stray bullets or pedestrian deaths. Let traffic roll safely toward the freeway. Let the trees survive. Let them be counted, cared for, the oldest residents of the city.
Poem, but when I thought about the way that I wanted to thank Norton, a line came to mind from my book. I'll say my story with Norton is long and ends in utter success. So, Norton, on your 90th birthday, I want to thank you for this character. My trickster body hadn't evaporated. She'd been sucked right into the unsure spaces between my atoms. She twinned tantrum and courage, impulse and synapse, loved a muscular reality. We were like liquids in suspension, her vinegar emulsified in the oil of me, making someone new, a woman with a bite.
HASSE. Oh, you want to use this? Oh, no, you're going to take this one.
I like that. Well, we have hands-free then. Norton, it's a happy thing that Norton's birthday is being celebrated tonight. We've got to jump on his actual birthday, which happens next weekend. And of course, it's Earth Day, which is so right to fall on Norton's birthday or Norton's birthday on Earth Day, because one of the things he savors so much is the natural world. And at least 3 or 4 of us are reading poems that have trees and other parts of the natural world in them. Norton also favors and savors human relationships, we all know that, and books and music and his religious traditions and community and fairness and such generosity. I hope you don't eat the cake before you read the 2 words that are on there, friend and hero. So he's friend and hero. My poem is an excerpt from a longer poem dedicated to Norton, and this one is just 8 lines long, and like Emilio and Norita, it has trees in it. Canopy. Like a child, I lie down, sit back, lie down, look up at the crowns of maple, at needled spruce and a big-hearted boxwood. Fugitive birds dart in and out, and in the least little wind, birch trees' leaves turn and flash silver like a school of minnows. Clouds range in the broad sky above Earth's great geniuses of shelter and shade. Happy birthday. Thank you.
Evelyn Klein. You had this plan. Falling apart.
I have a bad right hand. What a delight to be here and celebrate Norton. You know, when he published the book, he really enjoyed the woodcuts that also went in there that my dad did. And so I was thinking about today, and I have to do a takeoff on the book title for Norton. From Here Across the Bridge, for Norton's 90th birthday. When the poet creates, a river of words flows and flows, drained from experience and action, through landscape of thought. Then the publisher provides passage across the river's rushing current, from here across the bridge, to connect the river's flanks, one silent, one voiced, to create one world of the earthly existence, as a poem not shared is a poem not finished. Thank you, Lord.
Okay. You want to come up here too? I'm just going to read my own poems off to the side. I've given up my podium.
Hello. Gosh, I apologize for the temperature of the wine I brought. Both the wine and I have had a long day. So what I'll say about Norton is the process of getting my book, Real Work, published really made it live up to the title. So when I got Norton's phone call that he was interested in publishing it, he became my hero and is today, and everything's been great since then. Would you like to hear a poem about a kingfisher? Okay. I'm like trying to find it. Pardon? Oh. It's a short book though. I'm like, I can find it. I know I can. Kingfisher. Rattle cries in flight, hovers over sleepwalking water where river swirls in dark depressions, seeks a perch, alights, resists, then spies sticklebacks, stone rollers, deep into the kettle, dives through cold then colder layers, grasps wriggling slickness in her dagger beak, rises, rises, jewel clasped between two blades. On stone she strikes the prize to shatter bones before swallowing her captive whole, cleans and hones her weapon against branches, in sunlight shakes her feathers dry.
Jim, do you want to come up here too?
Oh, good, you're here, Jim.
We walk in this room.
Norton, there you are. So after leaving the Star Tribune in '98, I threw together a collection. I worked hard to put together a collection of neighborhood press columns. And I showed them to Norton, and not only did he publish them with great enthusiasm, the book was a marvel of design, and he threw a big party at the Women's Club with a cake. I thought every publisher did that. What a great start. And the latest book that I've had published, 16 books later, is this one, Seasons of the Urban Coyote, the second version of this, wonderfully designed by Norton and John Torren. And I can't tell you what this guy's meant to me. He published my first book and my latest book. I'm not done, and Norton's not done. So this is called Seasons of the Urban Coyote, and since we're in spring, there's a poem, a prayer to all the 4 seasons. This is a prayer to spring. Open the door, so many births, a sun. And the vernal equinox, what is that but words in an ancient language changing everything to tulips? Open the door, what is out there but the rain? Let the floods come, let the warblers tread home to their nests. Let the worms glisten in love under the cover of old leaves. Let Jack in the pulpit open his sermon with praise. Get that? Let Jack in the pulpit open his sermon with praise. Let new words erupt. Crocus, daffodil, jonquil, petals moving their colorful lips, and buds, billions of buds, may they burst with joy. Let the bumblebee stumble from her grassy cave, and the bear with her cubs the same. And the spade and the plow, let them come punch seed into soil. How much good the dirt knows, how much good the dirt knows. Let oak and elm unfurl their 1,000 hands to shelter with shade the open door. Who can stop this clapping, this audience of everything?
Things are better on this mic. And I learned that from my husband who sits next to me. Well, I just want to say that it's wonderful to be here with all of you, and that I was thinking of Mary Ann Grossman's column today that she wrote in the Pioneer Press about Norton, and she says, quote, in anticipation of Stillman's birthday celebration, we asked for his thoughts on turning 90. His answer, it's good to keep going. Great line. It's good to keep going. And that remark reminded me of a day talking to Norton once about how his mother dearly loved to be up at the lake when they would go, and she loved to swim. And he mentioned too that he could think back to the last day she was able to be at the lake and how sad it felt to know that she was going away and not to see the lake again and not to swim in it again. So this poem for Norton is called Free Swimmer, and it's from my new book of poetry, which is coming out in the middle of June. It's called When I Was Young and Old, which is true of Norton and me, I think, and many of you. And in this book, well, mostly I just wanted to celebrate that sense that of the story he told me about his mother. Like Norton, and like Norton's mom, and like myself, we all need to keep going and keep swimming. So the poem, Free Swimmer. When I swim out into the lake and travel the ancient waterways, the shifting current embraces me and convinces me that I have fins and a tail, and that I'm stronger and more supple than I will ever be on shore. Everything's suddenly so clear. I don't need or want anything. I don't need or want anyone. They're welcome to join me, but it's sweeter if they don't. I don't want anything either, since everything is here. Fresh and fishy, cool and warm, sparkling and somber, with the oldest colors and shapes on earth, each a flowing part of where and who I am, now and long ago and in times to come. I am not anyone or anything, and yet I've never felt so sure of my next move.
Yeah, that was Freya MANFRED, the thief of papers.
That's because you
Michael, go ahead, take this microphone.
I'll read from here. So Norton, you give me so many wonderful gifts. The first gift is that with my first book that you published, What to Pray For, I became a published author. And that has meant more to me than I can even begin to tell you. And the other great gift you gave to me is between you and John Torin, you put the artwork of my mom on the covers of my books. And that has meant so much to me and to my mom, and that's been another gift. But the greatest gift has been my friendship with you in these last years, and that's just been a real great blessing. So I can't wait until it gets warmer and stays warmer so we can go to ball game again. So I'd like to read a poem from the first book that came out, What to Pray For. And the poem is called When I Go Sketching in the Woods. It's a portrait of my mom, but I think it's also a portrait of artists in general. When I go sketching in the woods, I want to put it all on the page. Every green pine bough, each twisty oak branch, the lichen-covered rocks, the fields of emerald fern, the bald eagle across the river, the brown beetle scuttling across the path, the sapphire blue sky pouring through lacy branches. The job of the artist is to grow deaf eyes to abundance, and then bear your focus on that little bit of bark in front of you, infusing it with all the love you have for everything else. Happy birthday, Martin.
So this is a better microphone. Now it's my turn. I have to tell you this little bit about this book, which I sent around lines. I sent it around different places. Nobody liked it. They didn't even get back to me. I sent it to Norton, and a week later he said, I would be honored to publish this. So I'm indebted to you. And then he said, when do you want it to be published? Like, 2 weeks from now? Or? Anyway, let me read the title poem. It's called Lines. I just go down the page, scribbling down what I think of. It's not so different from what I first did in writing in first grade. A pencil, that woody paper, the faint blue line you were supposed to obey. For special occasions, they would hand out pens and warn us, this is permanent. No erasing. So you better think about what you have to say. That didn't make sense to me because I didn't know what I had to say until I said it, and I didn't know what my right hand might say. Even now, all these years later, I don't know what I might say. You don't either. That binds us one to another. That's the whole deal between us. You want to stay there? Or you want to?
Hello, Norton. Happy birthday early. I am not a Nodin author with a whole book. I'm just a Nodin wannabe. and
Louder, please.
Okay, this is better, I bet. Good. Well, I'm going to read one of the poems in this book, which I was thrilled to be in because, like Phil Bryant, I studied those Minnesota poets albums or collections, and it was nice to get a picture in there. So, Norton, you're one of the few people I know exactly when I met you. You know, there's people that just come into your life, but it's nice to have a specific time and place. And so it was the Women's Club Minnesota Book Awards 1990. Well, I didn't go that far to think of that. That's embarrassing. Okay, I'll launch myself into space, and we will soon be eating cake. Launching into space. At a certain stage, the engine drops into the ocean, and thrust carries the capsule onward into space, where it is not dark and star-studded as everyone always imagines, but light as Milton's celestial fields, and fiery. At a certain stage, the caterpillar disappears into the gauzy wrap of its spun cocoon and hangs like an unfurled leaf from the branch. Inside, the neat machinery of wing and antenna is unfolding, the slow loom weaving its color. A child at a certain stage will develop a sense of distance and continuity. Until then, she will think that the ball rolling toward the chair has vanished. She will not expect you to return. Later, she will see through walls to where you are. And love, at a certain stage, will know exactly when to look across the room and smile, when to turn and say the words it almost would not say, like bringing in an armful of wood, something to keep the fire against the cold. Happy birthday.
Next is Mark Walker.
I have a lot to thank Norton for, not the least of which is believing in me when I first decided it was time that I should publish a book of poetry, if at all possible. And many people among you and others pointed me to Norton and said, here's a place that is not just about a publishing house, but about a community of writers. And many of you in this room helped nurture me through the steps to prepare that first manuscript. So thank you, Norton, for both of those things, for believing in me and my work, and for making all of this possible. I got a call from Norton in August of 2019. I was to do an event the next day, actually. Joyce was a part of this, and some others of you. And he was planning to attend, and he called me. I was at a voice lesson. I'm a vocalist also, and so I interrupted my lesson. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Norton. And he said, well, I can't make it tomorrow. And there was an emergency veterinary appointment. And I thought, oh, he has a dog. I mean, I didn't know. So that was, thank you for telling me that you can't make it. And then he said, oh, also, I'd like to publish a book. Way to bury the lead. I'll read one short poem from that book. After I left you, you mentioned that you loved me. Not the Van Morrison album we played obsessively, or the mattress on your floor, its loamy scent redolent of rain. Not the phenomenon of the Hennepin Avenue Cafe open at 3 a.m. when we needed pie, or the cricket song that night you drove me home because, overserved, I couldn't find reverse. Not the summer concert under the Parliament of Oaks, or the bud vase for my birthday, one bubble trapped in the seclusion of glass. Not the road trip through farm country, the tent, the cows, a walk along the Kickapoo in the buzzing sun. In the end, nothing made up for the lack of those three words, how their long absence took on meaning, how I needed them like signposts to keep me going out where the marked roads disappear. Happy birthday.
Carrie? Carrie Waterman?
Wow, W already, okay. Well, this is show and tell. It's also a history lesson, because that's why we're here, Norton, because you have created history. 49 years ago, 49, Phil, in 1974, Norton published, and by publishing, he initiated the Minnesota Poetry Renaissance with this publication of 25 Minnesota poets. It was unheard of. Nobody had ever done anything like this before. I'm thinking, well, I didn't write it into my notes, but when I was listening to people read it, I was thinking, this is the democratization of poetry. That's what this was, the democracy of poets. The Poets, Volume 2, followed in 1977. Poets included Robert Bly, Louis Jenkins, Etheridge Knight, Phoebe Hansen, Kate Green, Roy McBride, and many, 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 many others, including myself. It was the first time I had published, and I was so proud and so honored to be included. When I got this out of my library, I noticed, because I'm in the second volume, the inscription, "For Mother, a late birthday gift, February 1977. My mother, who is no longer with us. I don't know if she read it or not. I'm so happy. Well, we hadn't known before these books were published that Minnesota was so poetry rich. And copies flew off the shelves, had to be reprinted several times. Poets began to move here to get in on the poetry scene. Seriously. It was a brave new world for poets and poems. 30 plus years later, Norton published my fifth book of poems, Book of Fire, and this was followed 7 years later by my last book, Threshold, New and Selected Poems. Norton, how can I thank you for all you have done for Minnesota poetry? What we enjoy today exists because of your generosity, your determination, your commitment, Here's a very short poem for your 90th birthday. How it begins. Listening to Brahms' intermezzo in A minor, composed after he was 60, I unbutton my shirt, slide my fingers through my skin, and slowly separate my ribs. Then gently, but definitely, I push my ego away from my heart. Thank you, Norman. Happy birthday.
And now we have Morgan Grace Willow. And then we have cake. Okay. Yeah, anybody else who wants to read, let me know.
I just want to add my deep thanks to those that everyone else has expressed. For Norton published my first book, Between, and the title came from, actually I had a different title on the manuscript, and we changed it to Between because some of the poems reminded Norton of, reminded you of your mother, and I remember I was very moved by that. I'm just going to read one poem, of course, and this is an ekphrastic poem responding to Johannes Vermeer's painting, The Geographer. It's a ghazal, by the way. There's a series of 6 ghazals sprinkled throughout this book. The Geographer. The map on the wall does the geographer no good. His gaze reaches toward light in new territory. Clouds, like explorers, rise up at the edge of world. Cold and water collecting, colliding, they assume shape. He draws a dragon in the border, or a zephyr, or a camel. Before place has a name, can it be called nation? Perhaps it was the first cartographer who invented war. The poem divides waters of silence into subject, verb. He draws a legend near the border. If the epic had no hero, would war cease? Compass in hand, light through stained glass, blue robe and tapestry, the cartographer starts over, drafting new or similar edges. Mapless, the poet watches sunrise. Path, like list, unfolds word by word. Thank you, Norton. Happy birthday.
One more reader?
Hi, I'm Carol Rux, and this is my first book, Evidence of Rain. And happy birthday, Norton. Thinking of winter in the middle of July. At daybreak, the sun came up quickly and drew sweat across my face. I wanted a cooler bed, the silence and death of a darker house. I heard the garage collectors scrambling at their work. A strong wind funneled aluminum cans down the alley, dragging the scrape of metal against concrete, like the sound of someone out alone shoveling snow.
Well, that's the formal part of the program, if you could call it formal. And I think...
Can we hear from Norton?
Oh yeah, we got to hear from Norton.
Oh, yes, Sue.
Well, you just use this.
So all of you lovely poets and authors who make my life wonderful have not mentioned my side of Norton, and that is bookselling. The gentle phone call that says, these are who I'm publishing this season. When would you like to have them? The reminder that all poets, all writers should have a box of their books in their trunk of their car, because you never know when you can sell them. I first met Norton in the 80s when I had a bookstore in Montana, and we did not formally meet, but I was explaining to my very young staff at Subtext Books what a jobber was. That you could go to Norton's Bookman and you could pick the bestsellers. He would give you a good discount, and you didn't have to pay for postage. And we had nothing like that in Montana, but you graciously allowed me to come and choose books for my store there. And I thank you for that. I thank you for your support of bookstores, even during the very, very lowest time. Norton, we could always depend on you. So I know what a wonderful thing you've done for all of these authors. For us booksellers, I thank you.
Speaking of book sales, which of course this is all about book sales, David from Next Chapter Books has a bunch of Nodin books back there for sale. And as I always say every month, we don't want him to have to carry a bunch of books back to his car. Much more efficient if each one of you carry a book back to your car. Norton?
Thank you.
Thank you all. When people are reading, it kind of brought back a lot of memories to me. Like when they talked about my mother, I remember when I was 8 years old, she always told me, be a good boy and be good to others. And I hope I've done that. I've always been so happy that I was born in spring. A lot of these poems that you read were from spring, and it's such a rebirth. And I remember when they chose my birthday was before Earth Day started, because that was in 1970. But I was always remember when they chose Earth Day on my birthday. so that we can now do that. And first of all, I want to thank Tim for having this reading for my birthday. It's so wonderful to be here with all of you. And it means so much to me. You know, I can feel the spirit of Carol Connolly here, because she was such a good friend of mine, and I can think that she would be happy that this was happening at her original reading. And I also want to thank Marianne Grossman, the editor of the Pioneer Press, and Laura Herzl, editor of the Star Tribune, for the wonderful tributes they made to me. It's wonderful to get tributes like that when you're alive. You know? So that makes me very happy. And I wanted to thank also John Torn for all his expert work in editing and design. He's kind of the wheels to keep Nodin Press going. And I want to thank all of your readers today. It meant so much to me for the wonderful poems and the thoughts you had. And it's wonderful, all the people are here, the friends, relatives, and people that are from different parts of my life. You know, there's people here from I worked at Bookman, and there's people here that I knew from high school, and different people that have helped me through my years at Bookman. That kept me going. And publishing is a book business of my life, and it's rewarded me with so much. When I was a junior in high school, I took printing class, and I set type, and it was so special to me when you're seeing type on a page, and I think it inspired me to want to be a publisher all my life. And the people that I have published, they become longtime friends with me, because when you're doing a book with somebody, it's something so personal to them that you relate to each other. Like people talked about the between. My mother always talked about the between, because I did the 2 books Between and Between Us with Margaret Hasse, and she would always come home and she says, "Oh, I had such a wonderful between," with somebody she met. Because sometimes you meet certain people and right away you know you're hit it off and you want to be a friend to each other. And that's kind of like why I like the between. And then I want to quote something from Mark Twain. Mark Twain said, "Do not complain about growing old. It is a privilege denied to many." I feel so blessed with that privilege. One doesn't know how long they will continue. It's kind of like frosting on the cake. But what I told Mary Grossman, I keep on doing and going. And that's what I'm continue to do as long as I can, you know. And I want you all to have a great time tonight, as I will with all of you. And a lot of you I'd like to see longer too. Maybe we can have lunch or something. You know, because I guess that would fill me for a long time. So thanks for everything, and have a wonderful night.
So I wanted to mention that Norton several people have said that when books are published, he makes a cake with a book cover on it. So a number of us chipped in, writers, and we made a cake for Norton with his photograph on it, and the words that you heard before, hero and friend. And we cannot bring the cake to Norton because it's so heavy, it's such a big cake, that we would like Norton to walk over there while we all sing happy birthday to him. Yes? All right.